Hey, how's it going? Hey,
Hey,
nice to meet you.
nice to meet you. How are you?
I'm the host for today, so I'll be kind of guiding everything and doing whatever I need to do on my end. So,
Great. Sounds good.
hey, nice to meet you. Oop, hold on, I got the Zoom going. Hold on, there we go.
Can you hear us okay?
Yes, sir. Yep. I'm gonna go ahead and make you a host here. So if you need to share your screen and everything, you can do that.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Now that we're hosts, do we need to initiate the live on YouTube?
No, I went ahead and did it. Actually, we're live
okay.
now, so we're a little bit early, but I'm actually
Oh.
on the YouTube here, and I'm gonna post that link, so people should be joining in here in the next 5 or so minutes.
Perfect. I'm gonna grab my iPad so we can follow along on the chat.
Okay. Yeah, good deal.
Right, you ready, Jake?
Yeah, let's get going. I think there's one I see on the YouTube chat along with Deidre. I put the YouTube link or the Zoom link in here, and so hopefully they'll be hopping on over with us here pretty soon. So
Great, no problem. Hey, everyone. Oh, you're off sick today. Glad you got to spend some time outside, though. That's good. Awesome. We're going to go ahead and get started. We are doing a presentation today on how to nail an interview. There we go. Jake, can you see our screen?
yes, I can. Yep, we're good here.
All right, so this is the third in our professional series. So if you remember the first time we met, we talked about job applications. This last time it was about resumes. So we're gonna spend some time today talking about how to nail an interview. And really the big takeaway here is just like nailing anything, it takes research and preparation and practice. So that's what we're going to emphasize throughout the presentation is really becoming prepared for an interview. Now, for those of you that have never been in an interview before, definitely ask us questions in the chat so we can answer those. We want to be here to help you. And if you've gone through the interview process and you have questions, if maybe you didn't answer a question the right way, or should you, give us more information or less information, anything and everything related to interviews is on the table. So definitely use the chat features. That way we can keep this interactive and helpful for you all. All right, so the thing about job interviews is that you've made it through the first hurdle, which means that you are, in the hiring manager's opinion, you're a good candidate for this position. So whenever you walk into an interview, have the confidence knowing that you made it through that first round and maybe a second round. And so now all you have to do is just make that strong first impression in person. And so again, you have to research like your job depends on it, literally. So you have to take the time to research the company, the position, your resume. We'll get into some of those details. You got to show up like a pro. You hear the term dress for success. That's real. Exuding confidence, so appearing confident and friendly, that goes a long way. Hiring managers tend to hire people that they like and that they are impressed with, and the first time they see them, so that matters. And then also coming prepared with your own set of questions and thinking about what questions you're going to be asked so you can practice those answers. And then of course, finish strong with a thank you note. And so we'll give you some tips on how to do all that.
All right, so like Lindsay said, the first thing is you've got to be a detective. And what you got to do is put your, I really like how we said that, put your low-key stalker skills to good use. So what we're going to do is you need to go to that company's website. You need to research them, make sure you understand what their mission statement is, what their core values are. And it would help if you write them down, have a little reference for yourself. So that way you can learn it a little bit better and find a way to incorporate that into your discussions during the interview. So, there's all kinds of different core values out there, and you can use any one of those core values that resonate with you and bring it up during your interview. Mention, hey, this core value, really drew me to the company. I really resonate with this. Go to the company's social website, see what kind of things that they do, see if they have anything that they volunteer for, any organizations that they support. That really helps as well. So if a company says, hey, we support Immerse Arkansas, bring that up in your interview, so that way you're connecting more, and it tells the interviewer that whoever's interviewing you, that you've done your research and you know about the company and you know what they believe in, and you see some of their core values. And then,
the project that I'm working on right now.
Ooh, that's true too. Yeah, what projects they're working on. And then it's also important to research the hiring manager. So we've talked before about when you're doing your resume, if you know the hiring manager or they mention it, reference them in that resume. It's the same thing here. Know what their background is. Maybe you've worked at similar places. Maybe they have a similar background to you, and you can use that to your advantage in the interview. So there's a few good websites to go to help you do some research too. Glassdoor is a good one because you're actually able to use people are able to put reviews of their work experience on Glassdoor. So you can go and see what other people have said about the company, what the good, the bad, the ugly are, and you can talk to them based on that. You can also go to LinkedIn. It's a great resource to see not only about like the hiring manager specifically and what they have done, but the company themselves. And I think that's really important as well.
Yeah, you want to try and figure out who is going to be interviewing you or who you might meet. Not just the hiring manager, there might be other people that you'll get to talk to. So sometimes you'll have a one-on-one interview, but sometimes you're going to meet with 2 or 3 people. And so, research the HR person. Who do you think is going to be your boss? Who are like the key people? And that way you can get to know them before you actually meet them. And that way you'll have a better chance of connecting with them during that, first conversation.
Absolutely. Hey, Regina, do you join? Hi.
Hi. Hi.
Okay, so the next thing you want to do is you actually want to freshen up on your resume and refamiliarize with yourself. What did you put down about yourself? This may have been a couple of months ago before you actually get to an interview. So make sure that you remember what you put down. And especially since we've talked before about make your resume tailored to the company that you're applying for. So you want to go back and read and remind yourself what that was. What did you say? This will help you avoid any surprises or during the interview if they ask questions specific to your resume. It's also not a bad idea to bring a copy of your resume because there may be other people in the interview that haven't necessarily gotten to the depth with the resume, so they can look through it and ask questions while you're there as well. It shows an extra little level of professionalism. So they may reference your resume, so make sure that you've kind of prepared for what questions they may be asking. It's good to do some mock interviews with other people, and just have some of your friends ask some questions that they've heard during interviews. And then make sure you can speak intelligently about what your work experience is. And we'll talk a little bit more about that. We've got a few examples on that. Dress to impress. Match the dress code of the company. So you don't have to wear a suit and tie to an interview or a nice fancy dress or anything like that. But if the company dresses that way, then make sure that you are dressing the same as they are. If they have a casual dress, then always dress up to at least a business casual. And business casual is really for polo shirts, dress shirts. You can wear a suit, don't wear a tie. That's not for business casual. Blazers and sports coats, a skirt, dress pants, high heels, dress shoes.
You basically want to look like you're going to blend in that company. So, if you kind of have a feel for the culture and you know how other people dress or you have a feel for that, then go ahead and dress similarly. And that way you look like you're going to be a natural fit into the company and the culture. The only caveat to that is denim is a maybe. So you could wear, for example, like a blazer and like a nice blouse or a button up or polo and some like dark straight jeans, like a classic cut jean. You got to be careful though. Just really make sure that it's, again, matches the culture. You don't want to walk into, a law office, for example, and be sporting your best jeans. You probably want to say that more for like a tech company, Maybe you're interviewing for like a bank teller, that might be appropriate. So just really think about, how do people dress there, and if you can, level it up one notch.
Okay, so things to avoid when you go in there. Definitely don't wear anything with graphics, bright, flashy shirts. Don't wear don't have any exposed undergarments, no sandals, no torn jeans, nothing that would be inappropriate.
And it's not that like bright clothing is inappropriate, or like graphic or printed is inappropriate. I mean, you might have something that looks really sharp and is printed or bright. You probably don't want to save that for your interview though, because you don't want them paying attention to your clothes. You want them looking at your face and making eye contact and speaking to you about your work experience. And so if they're distracted with what you're wearing, you definitely don't want that to be what they're going to remember about you.
Absolutely. Smile and make eye contact. So body language is actually a huge part of, plays into what people see about you, what they take away. It goes back to the first impressions mean everything. So be likable, smile, shake somebody's hand with confidence whenever as long as there's no COVID, right? But and if not, then do it in a fist bump or an elbow bump.
Yeah, so I would see what the hiring manager does first. If they reach for a handshake, then go ahead and shake back. Otherwise, just assume that you guys aren't shaking hands. You can do a wave. I like whenever you're saying goodbye, you can put your hand to your chest, thank you for your time today, instead of like shaking goodbye. If you do end up shaking hands, a tip that was told to me way back in the day was to keep your hands in your pocket if you're a guy, especially. Because you might get sweaty palms, and no one likes to shake a sweaty palm else. So you keep it in your pocket, and that way, whenever you go to shake your hand, you can do like a wipe on the fly inside your pocket, and you'll have a drier palm. But again, that's if you guys are shaking hands, because again, COVID, not very many people are doing that.
It's true. And smiling really helps with nerves. Going into an interview can be nervous. It's kind of nerve-wracking. But if you're smiling, it kind of helps. It helps calm you down as well, and it projects enthusiasm. So there's a few other things like sit up straight, lean forward a little bit, like what we're doing here. Don't sit back like this and be all casual, and don't cross your arms. And so because that body language speaks to who you are and how you feel about the position or how you feel about the company. So go in there with enthusiasm and really put your best foot forward and show that you want to be there, as well as just say that you want to be there.
And if you are meeting with more than one person, make sure that you're taking turns to make eye contact. And by staring, it's like a pretty fine line. Anything longer than 5 seconds of like a deadlock is probably too long. So you might want to just like look down at the table, look to the side if you're thinking about an answer, but probably just don't like lock eyes for someone for the whole time. So just, be mindful that it's not always received well. And you don't have to smile the whole time, but try to keep a friendly face even when you're not talking and you're listening. You can nod your head. This guy here, he's not showing any teeth, but you can tell that he still looks very friendly and engaged. Okay, so this is key. So one of the first questions that you will probably get asked in some form or another is, tell me about yourself. It's a pretty good soft opener to get the conversation started. And truth be told, most hiring managers haven't spent hours studying your resume, right? And so this is like a good time for them to be like, all right, who is this person again? Like, they've seen a lot of applications and resumes. They're still trying to get caught up. So that first question of tell me about yourself is your opportunity to really say, this is what I've done with my jobs, or this is what I'm in school studying this right now, or I am interested in this field or in this position. These are the skills that I have, and this is how I'd like to use them in the workplace. So it's what's on the table is basically anything that motivates or inspires you. You can talk about your achievements. You want to keep it pretty brief though, 3 to 5 sentences. This is who I am. You don't need to talk about your hobbies unless they're specific to the job. You don't need to talk about your whole education and work experience. It's right there on the resume. So you don't need to take them through like your autobiography. Just say, you know, this is who I am. This is what I'm passionate about. This is what I want to do. This is why I'm here, and move on. Okay, you're going to get asked questions, right, during the interview. And a lot of them are going to be about the jobs you've had and your work experience. They might be say, tell me about a time that you've had to overcome a challenge, or tell me about a time when you had to meet a deadline. And what you can do is remember the STAR method: situation, task, action, and result. What was the situation or challenge that you were facing? What did you specifically do as part of that situation? What were you tasked with? What was your role? What were your responsibilities? What action did you do to overcome the challenge or the situation? And then what was the outcome of that? So situation, what was it? Task, what was your role or responsibility? How did you overcome it? And then what was the outcome? And hopefully it's a positive one, right? Like you want to say like, this is what I learned, or this is what I accomplished, or, you know, keep it on a positive note if you can. Okay, so also with interviews is there are things that you should not say. So you want to keep it positive and professional, even if you've had a terrible work experience, even if you had a terrible, awful boss or coworker. Don't harp on that. Try not to bring it up because that leaves a bad taste in their mouth. I mean, they want to hire you as a friendly, positive person. How they feel about their interaction with you is how they're going to feel about hiring with you. So if you spend the whole time or part of the time talking about your horrible boss or job, they're not going to feel very good in that conversation, and that's not going to make them feel good about you. So try to avoid negative talk. You might be nervous. Chances are you will be nervous, and that's a good thing because nerves, those butterflies in your stomach, tell you that what you're doing is important to you. So own those butterflies. And even if you're nervous, just try to stay calm. You know, try to stay calm, smile, try to relax, take a breath if you need it. It's okay to have a pause so you can gather your thoughts. What you don't want to do is talk about how nervous you are. You know, you don't want to say, I'm so nervous right now, or I'm so sorry, I'm really nervous. Because that doesn't project that confident, friendly feeling. And a hiring manager wants to know that they can have confidence in you and your abilities. So if you're not projecting that, they're going to be hesitant to hire you for that job. Something you can do if you are starting to get nervous before a job interview is show up a little early. You know, being on time helps calm those nerves so you can get in the right mental state. So when you're there early, and by the way, never show up like 15, 30 minutes early, you know, 5, 10 minutes, that's good. Because, you know, they're going to call whoever up and they have to stop what they're doing. If you call them up too early, then that they might be annoyed with that. So 5 to 10 minutes is usually a good benchmark. Allows you time to kind of get in the right mental frame. But if you are getting nervous, go to the bathroom and strike a power pose. So power pose is like your superhero pose, or like you're basically just like making yourself bigger. You can have your arms wide out. You can have your hands on your hip like a superhero, have like your legs in a V stance, and smile too. Your mind will trick you into thinking that you're excited and happy just by smiling. Like you start smiling and it's like impossible to like be nervous and scared. So do your power pose. I know you might look a little foolish in the mirror. No one's going to see. And that way you can go and have like a good start to the interview. Okay, the other thing you don't want to talk about, at least not in the beginning, you don't want to kick it off, is like, what's in it for me? How much vacation time do I get? How much, like, do I get a bonus? You know, what are my benefits? What is your healthcare plan? How much am I going to get paid? You can ask questions about benefits. You do not want to start it off with benefits, just like you wouldn't go on a first date and say, when do you want to get married? How many kids do you want? Like you wouldn't open up with those heavy hitters. You're going to like ease into that, right? So job interviews, the same thing. It's so important to practice your answers because of this right here. So think about all the questions that you might be asked during the interview so you can practice how you're going to answer those. Because the worst thing you can do when you're answering questions, other than saying, I don't know, is to have like a really good answer and be like, so yeah. And then you're just looking back at them to ask you the next question. Start strong, finish strong, and always tie your answer back to the question. And so if they ask you about a challenge you've ever had to overcome, you can talk all about it and say, and that's really probably the biggest challenge that I've had to face so far in my career. And this is what I learned from it, and then end it. Because if you try to say, so yeah, that again doesn't project confidence. It doesn't project that you know what you're doing and that you're capable for the job. So practice. Okay, also, here we're going to go through some example questions that you will probably get asked. Okay, tell me about your last job is right up there with tell me about yourself, right? So your hiring manager, they're like just now looking at your resume after who knows how long. And so they're trying to familiarize with who they're talking to. They're going to be like, hey, tell me about your last job. Don't say it's on my resume. Don't say, what do you mean? What do you want to know? Give them an answer that reinforces your skills and abilities. So make sure you take that opportunity to really highlight what you're good at. And if you can work it in, mention what you liked most about your last job. Again, even if it was a terrible job, maybe you liked, a coworker, or maybe there was a customer that you really got, attached to. So pick something that you really liked about your last job and how it benefited you the most in that position. Okay, what is your greatest weakness? It's become so cliche to say, well, I'm a perfectionist, or I work too hard, or I care too much. That humble brag is not fooling anyone, and it is tired. Instead, also don't say I don't have one. Of course you have one. And don't say I don't really know. If you don't know yourself, then no one knows you. So pick something and have an answer prepared. So you can say focus on a weakness that's not essential to that job. Okay, so if it's essential to be detail oriented, maybe don't say that you're bad at details, right? Maybe don't say that you have a hard time focusing. Try to pick something that isn't going to blow your chances for the job, but be honest. Be honest. Mm-hmm. So even if maybe you have a hard time with time management, a lot of people struggle with staying on task, or they get distracted easily, or they start thinking about, what's going on in their life and they have a hard time staying focused. Maybe frame that in a way that says, I really struggle to start a new task or project unless I have a lot of direction. And that's true for a lot of people, unless you get, from your boss saying, I want you to do this by this, and this is how you do it. They're like, well, I don't know how to do that. So you can say, I really struggle if I don't have a lot of direction. It's hard for me to start a task or stay focused. And so you can still frame it in a way where it's not totally negative. But you can also be honest about yourself. Okay, so if you were fired, we talked about this in the job application session, that first session, we talked about, you can't lie, right? And in Arkansas, if you get terminated, they can call your previous employer, and by law that they can say why you were terminated. So you probably don't want to lie and say something like, my boss didn't like me, or I missed too much, I missed too much work. That might be true, right? You might have like a really hard time showing up to work. And we talked about how like maybe you had a job where you had to be there at 7 a.m. and lo and behold, you are not a morning person. And so now you're not applying for a job that requires you to be at work at 7 a.m. You're applying for something that's more in line with your natural schedule. But what you can do instead of blaming someone else is still try to keep it positive and forward thinking. How do you turn getting fired into something positive? Well, you focus on what did you learn? How did you grow from that experience? And how are you different now? So be really quick about it. Rip off the Band-Aid. I was fired because my job was not my priority. I'm more focused now. I'm more mature now. I grew from that experience. Just be real about it and move on. Okay, where do you see yourself in 5 years? Don't say, I hate this question. Don't say, I don't know. Or be like, I want to be in your job. Even if that's true, make it about you, right? Like make it about like what your personal goals are. And some of you might be sitting here and be like, I don't know what I want. I don't know. I don't even know what I want to do 6 months from now. That's fine. That's fine. Talk about your passion and your interest. Maybe you really like people. So maybe say, I really enjoy working with people. And I want to be in a job where I can work with people and make their day and make, a positive difference. So you don't have to even say that you want to be in a specific job. Just talk about what you want to be doing with your life, with your career. And if you want to manage people, say, ownership, like eventually I want to work into a management position. I want that responsibility. I like leading people. And you can also tie it back to your skills and say, I have natural leadership abilities and I want to be able to use that. So you don't have to have like a specific career trajectory, but don't say, I don't know, and don't make it a generic answer. Okay, so the other thing is that at the end of the interview, you are going to get asked, do you have any questions? Don't say no. Don't say no. Okay, that shows that you're not interested in the job. You're not curious. You don't care. Even if you don't have any questions and you know all the answers about the job, ask something. Please ask something. So again, don't start off with what's the pay or vacation time. That can't be, you can ask that. Don't make it your first question. A good first question, if they haven't addressed it, is like talking about the day-to-day. What does a typical day look like? Can you show me examples of tasks or projects I'll be working on? Or, what are the types of projects that I'll be doing? Just things like that that'll say, like, what are you going to be doing from day to day? All right. Or ask about the skills for the job. Obviously, there's skills on the job posting, okay? But this is still not a stupid question because you can ask, what are the skills and experiences that you're looking for in an ideal candidate? So as a hiring manager, like what's really important to you? Because again, that skills list on the job posting, that's a wish list most of the time. And most of the time, they're just like a generic canned posting. So now that you're in front of the hiring manager, what does the hiring manager want to see? Or what's missing from their team? Like what skills are missing from their team that they're hoping to add to the team? Or you could ask about the challenges that you'll be facing in this position. So you can start to talk about, what do the skills look like? Or you can talk about how will you be evaluated? So how will your job performance be evaluated? What does that process look like? What expected to learn, 30 days in, 90 days in. And that way it looks like you're really committed to that position and performing well. All right, so at the end, you will want to send everyone a thank you note. And if you can, make it handwritten, but don't wait too long. You've got 24 hours. You want to make it personalized. So immediately after the interview, when you get back in your car, get on your phone and type up some notes to yourself about what you talked with each person about. So, maybe you talk to Frank about like, certain aspects of the job. I really appreciate you explaining the skills that are needed for this job. I know that I can help fill that position. And, maybe you talk to Diana, the HR person, about the really awesome benefits, and, you can thank her for explaining the benefits, but write down their name, their job title, and what 1 or 2 things that you guys talked about. That way you're not just writing the same email each time. And don't do a group email. If you talk to Frank and Diana, they get separate emails because they're special. So make sure you're sending to each person their own individual note. I know we've talked about this the last 2 times. Check your grammar. Don't be sloppy. Use Grammarly or something similar. It's free. You have no excuse. And again, if you can hand deliver the letter if it's close by, or just pop it in the mail. It'll be there in a couple days. Okay, that was it. So do we have any questions in the chat?
We do not right now.
Okay.
Regina, do you have any questions?
No, not really.
Hey, hey, Regina, I was gonna say, can you share a little bit about like an experience you've had like on a job interview? Because I know you've been on a job interview before. Can you kind of share maybe a little bit how that went, or did you think it went
A
good?
job
Bad?
interview.
Yeah, just the past.
If I remember, yeah, the experience that I had, oh Jesus, was pretty good. It was a pretty good experience, I was able to answer all their questions and stuff.
Were you nervous going into it, or?
I was confident. You gotta be confident.
Yeah.
So yeah, you gotta be confident, because if you be nervous, then 9 times out of 10 you finna mess up something up in the interview.
She knows.
Yeah, so you gotta be confident.
Great.
Yeah.
What was that, Regina? Was there any questions that you were asked that like threw you through a loop that you were like, oh man, I don't know how to answer that?
No, not necessarily.
What were the types of questions you were getting? And do you mind sharing like where like you've been on interviews before, or like managers you've talked to? Like what were the kind of questions they were asking you?
Okay, one of them was let me get over here to working. Check the mailbox. One of them, if I remember, is, are you available to work overtime?
Mm-hmm.
But I told them that I couldn't because of the lack of transportation.
I got you. Yeah.
Yeah. So the lack of transportation. Yeah. But they was able to work something out with me.
So for like that type of question, what you could say, and I'm sure you answered it, it sounds like you answered just like really honestly, but you could also say something like, I would really love to work overtime. I want to work overtime and I'm interested. I can't right now, but when I'm able to, then I would absolutely commit to doing that. And so that way you can at least give them some glimmer that like you're committed and you want to, you just can't.
Yeah. I see what you're talking about. One sec. Yeah, I know. I see what you're talking about. But yeah.
Yeah. And then if you ever get a question, and you're like, man, I really didn't answer that the way that I wanted it to. Or if you're like walking out the door and you're like, oh man, I should have like brought that up. That's the perfect thing that you should write down on your phone and include in your follow-up email or note. I mean, like, hey, you asked me about this. I just wanted to elaborate on that a little bit more. So that's like your second chance to get in there.
Right. That's true. But yeah. So I've been in multiple interviews and so on and so forth. Was able to answer most of their questions and was able to get what not let me rephrase that, was able to do what they were required to do or whatever they had me to do or whatever. So yeah, that's pretty much on my end. That's all I get. And I'm home, finally.
Thank you for sharing.
Yes, no problem, no problem. No problem at all. I just killed about three stones with one bird. Still able to attend class.
All right. Any questions come through the chat?
No questions through the chat.
Okay, so we've been posting the Google slide link.
Hi, Brandon.
So if you guys look back on this later, we'll drop in the comments a link so that way you can get a copy of the presentation. In the notes section of the slides, you can only see it in presentation mode. In the notes section of the slides, though, there's some links in there about like common questions that are asked during an interview, things to say and not to say. So some of the things that we went into, there's a lot of information out there on the internet. I dropped a couple links down in the notes so that way you guys can do some more research if you want to, dig in some more.
Very cool.
Well, thank you guys for joining us tonight. I can't remember what we're going to be talking about next time, but it will continue on our professional series.
Very cool. Well, thank you guys for coming on, and look forward to seeing y'all next time.
Our pleasure.
Absolutely.
All right.
Thank you.
Yeah,
All right,
thanks guys.
bye, y'all.
Have a good one. See ya.
Okay.
Yeah, no problem. Bye.